Interesting question in the comments. What is the best knife for both EDC and self-defense if I was walking around in the middle of the night and just felt I needed or I wanted something with that option in my pocket? So what's the best knife for that? So it's an interesting category really, EDC defense hybrids, which really, of course, the best knife for self-defense is like a cold steel Raja 2 or something huge, like that's longer than this frame of camera, like a XL Voyager or something. Something that will, like a pocket sword that will scare off most baddies just with its sight, and also be darn strong in any sort of combat as well. +1, you know, +1 dexterity kind of thing. But if we're trying to think of knives that are practically EDC knives too, it does make it a little bit trickier. This knife here is, in my opinion, not one of them, because I guess I'm thinking, and this is purely from someone who has no real background as a knife as weapon person, just as more of an interesting point of conversation really. I think the main thing you're after is ensuring the knife doesn't leave your hand either dropping or ending up in someone else's hand. So what are we looking at most? Rather than the blade, I think the handle. Because even a short blade swung around enough will gash and slash and scare your foe away. If we're thinking EDC purposes, we're not thinking of lopping off an arm, we're just thinking of, I guess, enough of a deterrent to show that you've got a blade and you're not afraid to use it, damn it. So this one here, probably not the best. It's actually quite a slick handle. It's got somewhat of a forward guard, so it's an interesting thing when the best EDC knives, in my opinion, in this category aren't necessarily the best EDC slash tactical or defense knife hybrids. Again, with this, this is a pretty good EDC knife. This is a Lion Steel Mini Moletta, and you know, it's got certain hard use attributes to it, like this rotor block here to lock it into fixed blade, all that sort of stuff. But again, very, very slick handle. It's got something of a guard for, you know, extended cutting, but nothing to the point where you're thinking someone might be grabbing this and trying to rip it out of your hand, or someone might be pushing this way and, you know, wedging it out like people are taught to do, you know, break that grip and all that sort of stuff. So not this either. It's going to really come down to being something like, I would suggest two things come to mind. Grippy G10 handles, so American Lawman here. This is a grippy G10 handle with an exaggerated rear choil and even a forward finger choil. That is not getting out of your hand too easily at all. I mean, you can always push on the blade, and you know, this is the weakest point of the grip. It's easy to get the knife out this way than it is out through the flesh and bone of my hand. But really, a knife like this isn't going anywhere. Yeah, the blade isn't long, but this is EDC defensive hybrids we're talking. So probably something like the Cold Steel American Lawman. And ideally, I mean, perhaps even better, the Rat 2, because the Rat 2 has that thing of having a little bit of extra reach, and also one of these crazy deep sort of forward finger grooves, and a bit of space between you and where the blade starts. So, yeah, pretty good. Yeah, I would say, you know, for something that's, you know, a pretty bona fide EDC choice, the Rat 1 is probably pretty good. It's got lots of handle. It's going to be hard to get out of your hand. That's, in my opinion, it's probably a pretty reasonable EDC slash defensive knife hybrid. Now, again, I stress, I'm not just talking about knives you just buy for self-defense, like, you know, the larger Cold Steels, Spyderco, Police or Matriarch, those sorts of knives. Talking about things that will have to make do, and I think in terms of making do, these are pretty good. In terms of the best one, well, in my collection, I don't know. I'm thinking flippers are probably pretty reasonable. So this isn't got a particularly grippy handle, but it's got two dead set points of no further, you know, hand will go no further, and that is the flipper tab, and that is the rear, you know, thumb ramp there. Yeah, it's probably a bit of a slippery handle, and it's, you know, could well be pulled perhaps forward out of my hand, but I'm thinking flippers might be the ideal way to go, and this has got a very strong lockup as well, so obviously you're probably looking for a strong lockup, which this knife also has, as does really the Ontario Rat 1. Strong enough, it's a nice thickish line of lock. But I think probably the best one in my collection may well be this Zero Tolerance 0909. It's got the elements of the American Lawman, so it's got that grippy G10 handle with a pretty good finger plunge there, but it also has the flipper. And I think flippers on both counts are probably pretty reasonable. One, they do make a bit more of a forward finger choil, and another is just that. If someone's it might be the sound and the sight that makes someone think again about having a crack. So I think probably out of all my knives, something like this, very, very expensive obviously, but just has a little bit extra than the other two that I'd probably be recommending as well. So knives for defense, not my cup of tea at all, but it was a viewer question and I'm happy to answer it, and I'm certainly not an expert. And again, I'm not saying that these are the best ones, I'm just saying these are the best, probably ones that you'd be happy to EDC every day, but also happy to, you know, better off having in your pocket than not if you're really, really stuck. And I'm talking so stuck that you've got a wall behind you, you can't run, there's no one around to help you, yet the person still advances, just that sort of thing. And yeah, again, I've been into the knives as weapons thing already, but it isn't like my cup of tea, but I think it's an interesting enough thing to talk about. And it's funny that things that were once ideal in EDC knives, like sort of small comfortable handles like this and quick actions and things, they all of a sudden become a little bit less desirable. So yeah, interesting point of conversation anyway. And thank you all very much for watching. See you later.